So I recently interviewed Matija Golubović, an entrepreneur, marketer, and founder with a flair for content strategies. Interestingly, Matija was one of our earliest hires in Glorify who spearheaded our initial content strategy. He then left to pursue greater things such as launching his own agency Omnius, which focuses on SaaS, SEO, and content marketing. The work they do at Omnius is exceptional. That's why in 2021 we brought Matija back on board, this time with his agency with the sole goal to grow and optimize Glorify's organic traffic. Apart from the exceptional content work with noteworthy SaaS companies such as Payoneer or Text Cortex, they've also been recognized for their own incredible company website built on Webflow. The Omnius website has been featured on Designer Daily Report, Curated Design, No Code Supply, and Web Design Inspiration. Aside from that, Matija has also been a startup mentor and lecturer at Clim Accelerator by Climate KIC, which is EU's leading climate initiative, IAB Master 4.0 by Digital Serbia Initiative, and D-Incubator by Delta Holding. Now, putting all of this aside, I'm sure all of you guys watching are either curious about Framer or diehard Framer fans, including myself. In fact, I used to be a diehard Webflow fan. Now, the main reason I put this discussion together with Matija is because even though his agency is tool agnostic, he's very much pro-Webflow. And in the interest of trying to draw genuine thoughts from the other side about Webflow versus Framer, this big topic that a lot of people are discussing, I wanted to have a healthy discussion and perhaps a little bit of a debate with Matija. So let's see how the founder of one of Europe's leading SEO agency views this topic and why they are pro-Webflow. Now, just before we get into it, if you're new to this channel, I'm Omar Farouk, designer turned startup founder, and in this channel I share all of my learnings around building delightful products and trying my best to achieve breakthrough growth. So if you're interested in all of this stuff, go ahead and click subscribe to stay notified. All right, let's jump in. Hey, what's up, builders? Really excited to say we've got an exclusive session with Matija Golubović. He's head and co-founder and CEO of Omnius, a Europe-based B2B SEO agency that helps SaaS and fintech businesses grow to healthy unit economics for early stage growth, you can say, so that we can get to those next levels. And they've been helping a wide range of startup companies get that initial traction. Some of Europe's most innovative startups, in fact, such as Text Cortex, Waterdrop, Glorify, one of my startups, of course, we all know, and Myos and others. And additionally, he's been working in the B2B marketing space for over 10 years, from being a freelancer to the C-level team member of both bootstrapped and funded startups. I'm really excited to have him. What's really cool about, of course, mine and Matija's relationship, we've had a professional relationship going on for probably now 3+ years. Safe to say, Matija, 4 maybe. We met in 2019. And that's correct. And you spearheaded content for us at Glorify during that time. And, that's when we really started to see some significant traction when you joined our team. And to this day, Matt has moved on to bigger things, but he still works with me on and off on various projects. He did take on a project with his agency Omnius, take on and spearhead and fix our organic SEO ecosystem within Glorify, because we had a big move from WordPress to Webflow. And as you guys know, with this video, we're talking about why we actually moved from Webflow to Framer, and we're going to debate and discuss the nuances there. But Matt came back and joined us in 2021 when we made the move from WordPress to Webflow. The reason we moved to Webflow at the time was purely because we wanted to get a more scalable way to ship our pages, design our site, and of course, Webflow has a range of amazing tools to create a highly responsive website. And so that was the intention. Of course, Webflow is the go-to tool to create beautiful websites. And so we made that move, and we couldn't be happy at the time. And I needed someone to make sure that the content transfers really well, and of course continue to scale content then onwards, which is where Matt and his team joined us at the time. And later on discuss, the pros and cons of Webflow versus Framer, and we might have a healthy debate around that. There might be some opposing opinions, but that's what's important about these kind of discussions, right? So Matt, let's start with you, man. First of all, quick intro about yourself will be nice to hear for our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the invite, Omar. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, back in the early days of my career, I've been a freelancer, mostly focused on the content marketing and SEO. And afterwards, I started joining different startups where most of that growth experience came from. Afterwards, based on some cons that we saw in that process, in collaboration with different agencies that were treating us not that well, I actually decided to co-found an agency that would fix all those issues. So firstly, from the perspective of results, so we focus only on the concrete and actually provable results, nothing like, let's say, brand awareness or some other vanity metrics. And on the other hand, we have, a different way of approaching projects. We take only 8 projects per year, integrate deeply, which actually proved very effective when it when it came to the end results, as we had that different approach that let us actually vouch for results. Yeah, a lot of our clients do host their websites on Webflow, most of them. Smaller portions of them are using Framer or Next.js or even WordPress still. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this discussion today. I think a lot of healthy stuff there is that we can discuss, and yeah, let's jump straight into it.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Well, look, let's talk about the first project that you took on board back in 2021 with your team, which of course, at the time, we weren't even sure how to look at our SEO. We weren't confident about the metrics we were reading. We're getting, of course, a lot of traffic, but we weren't necessarily seeing enough conversions, maybe arguably some free signups, which was cool to have. But there's, the top of funnel content was definitely quite questionable. I don't know if we had enough bottom of funnel content, to be honest. It was questionable too. The target wasn't clearly defined. We were very, very broad with our content. So tell us a little bit about what you did with your team during that migration to Webflow, and then what followed as well in terms of content strategy. So the migration piece, and as well as the content strategy that followed.
Yeah, absolutely. So generally your old website was on the WordPress, and it has been outdated for some time. So I think it was a good call to migrate it to the Webflow. So first of all, the first problem was that technically it wasn't done, perfectly when it comes to, let's say, different redirects and different technical aspects of that migration. So there are, documents that can guide people through that process, and I warmly recommend sticking to it. Outside of that, so your general SEO problem started with the way of content that was produced back in the time. So if you hear an agency that will tell you that you can expect results in, 12 months or something like that, you should fire that agency. If you're a SaaS business, as let's say that's the old-fashioned way of doing things. Starting broad with top of the funnel. So those are some general topics about the industry, about, generally educating people about some general trends. And if you're a framer, it's all right. You're a big company and you're starting broad and educating the new market when you're a newcomer. That's all right. But as a SaaS startup, it doesn't make any sense. So what we started doing is to balance the content. So both being blog posts and landing pages between bottom of the funnel and top of the funnel elements. So top of the funnel elements are mostly educational articles. So let's say for glorify.com, that would be top 10 design trends for 2024 that you should implement, while bottom of the funnel content, which is in the short term even more important. So if you want to see results in, let's say, 3 to 6 months from the day when you're starting to work, you should create that bottom of the funnel content, meaning you should create alternative-based landing pages, comparison, blog posts, etc. So we kind of made that balance happen. And also the third problem, which was the biggest one, was the keywords. So the keywords that you were ranking for, they were too broad and they were focused on traffic and not traffic that converts, which is problematic in a couple of ways. So first of all, if I'm not mistaken, it was keyword like Instagram screenshot or something like that. You're ranking for within the top 3 keywords, something like that. And it brought a lot of traffic. If I'm not mistaken, we are talking about thousands per month. But people were spending 1 to 2 seconds per their visit, which was crushing your SEO, as that's the clear signal that content quality is not good. And content quality as a factor for Google is the most important one. So in a combination with technical performance and such, it influences the rankings really intensely. So generally through that keyword you were getting vanity traffic that wasn't there to convert. Not sure if you heard about
we heard
content quality.
that. Content quality is really important, of course. Yeah, makes sense, because if people are standing laying there for like 1 second, that's a clear indicator for sure, as you said.
Yeah, and so we started, erasing anything tying you to that keyword, so or any other variations of such keywords. And we started working on a large number of content that was focused on product-led keywords. So something that would generate an interest-defined traffic. So people that would convert, that would spend time on the website, those all are very positive signals for Google to start ranking your website higher, and also to start treating you as an authority in the space. As that's the way you can grow in some niche. So that's also one of the mistakes that businesses are making. They're going too broad and not niching down enough. So which was also one of the problems with the Glorify back at the time. But yeah, when we fixed all of those nuances, when we updated blog posts, which is really important to do from time to time, so content updates. Afterwards, with some delay, the results started happening as you can see. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's pretty much it.
No, fantastic. Of course, yeah. I mean, we did see, and that's the point of SEO, is that it's definitely a long game. And so the expectation should be set from the beginning. And as you said, like if any agency is promising results in X time, I think it's fair to say maybe there's possibility of results in X time, but to confidently say, hey, you'll definitely get to X amount by X time is almost ridiculous with SEO, right?
It's actually not ridiculous. I'd say I'm just talking about the timeline that's too long. So if anyone is saying that you can't expect results before the 12th month or something like that, we are talking about old-fashioned SEO agencies. That's not, and its approach is not focused on the B2B, on SaaS companies, etc.
So how long would you say, it's fair to see results would be based on your approach?
Yeah, based on our approach, the first significant results can be seen in 3 months if everything is set up correctly, while we are talking about the more aggressive growth happening on the 6th month. So generally between 6th and 8th month, that's the critical time that you need to hit correctly, and you will see an exponential growth there.
Fantastic. And look, before we move on, because of course you took out the Webflow piece, and we're going to be talking about the tools in a moment. Maybe talk a little bit about like some of the, of course, there's the case study of Glorify. It'd be interesting to hear some of the things you've been experiencing in recent times, 2023. I mean, I feel like marketing changes every month, every year almost, right? It changes tenfold. I mean, we all saw the epidemic of AI content and people pumping their blogs with AI content in the years prior. And I think some people actually got some growth, which is interesting to see. Definitely there might be some questions behind, like whether or not the content itself is trustworthy or is actual factual. But I would like to hear your thoughts on, moving into 2023, 2024 SEO 101. It'd be interesting to know any insights you may have been working with your clients, and what you've been able to achieve with those clients would be really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to touch point the AI subject, which is, of course, a really interesting point of view, the stuff that's been going on. We have a very strict rule that our writers can't use any AI for creating content outside of the inspiration part, as Google penalizes that type of content, and it makes a lot of sense to be that way, as they're protecting their market. So we've seen this a lot of times when companies start to output large number of blogs. So we are talking about a couple of thousand blogs in a week, and they see a growth in some short period, and then it's just surges, and it's much worse than it was before, because it is very, very hard to actually recover any traffic that was there before, and most of the time it's almost impossible to get to the old position and to trade off that type of the authority that you had for a couple of months of growth, I believe it doesn't make a lot of sense. What makes sense is, people are shifting towards the experience, and that factor is becoming really critical. So I'd say focus more on the content quality, focus more on the way your website functions and looks like. So it will define how much people are spending time on it and how much they are scrolling through it. And eventually this will give positive signals to Google, and eventually it will convert people. So from the standpoint of the whole industry, what we are seeing is, so as the competition is on the rise, I believe the content distribution will also keep rising in its importance. So from two standpoints. So first one is the speed of indexing. If you're distributing your content, you will be indexed faster, so that content elements, and you will start to grow earlier. So that's the first thing. And the other thing, when I'm talking about distribution, I'm also talking about content recycling, which is kind of really important. So recycle your content. Make a funnel around your content. So you make one, high authority piece on your blog post, then based on it, you make a YouTube video, optimize the video for rankings. Also, chop that video into a few smaller ones, do stuff for the LinkedIn, etc. That generates great results for our clients. If we are talking about the general marketing stuff.
Yeah, I'm just curious about that strategy. Like when you say you create the long form video, chop up video, is those videos now linking back to that long form post, that article, or? Okay.
Yeah, about the chopping part, I was mainly talking about the marketing strategy of content recycling, not that much about the SEO. But about the long form video, yes, it should actually link back to the main article, because YouTube and Google are owned by the same company called Alphabet. Their algorithms are, highly influential one to another. So if you do a video on YouTube on the subject and you add it on your landing page on the website, it will rank higher, as Google is starting to prioritize those factors as well. But I believe what made sense in the past will make sense even more in the future, now in, let's say, 2024, when a lot of companies are trying something shady, and some sketchy things. I think you should focus, when it comes to SEO, on high quality content, on high quality backlinks. Not as much as before, but you should prioritize the quality of those backlinks, combined with a lot of content elements, not only the blog posts but also different landing pages. It will perform really good. In SEO, that's called content clustering. So you should do the research about content clustering, as it's one of the most effective strategies out there. Google will still have an enormous equity in the searches. In past couple of years, that was between 49 to 52% of all web visits actually came through search browsers. So this won't be changed in the following years. So you should just understand how you can get those rankings well. And yeah, what we are seeing as a trend is the drop in a performance of paid advertising of that channel, which makes a lot of sense. So if you're seeing a lot of ads and increased number of ads, its performance will drop. And generally, people now understand the Google ads and what is there. You should focus on the top 3 positions on Google. If you can't do that, you should definitely focus on top 10 positions, as most of the keywords that are 11th or above position on Google doesn't generate that much of visits nor the credibility. So yeah, that's pretty much it. A bit more about the content clustering. Essentially, it's a way so you should define different subjects and start creating a large number of blog posts based on variations of that keyword. And you should also have the one landing page that's meant to convert and to rank the highest. And also, think of all those pages as a way to pump up that main landing page. And also, after you've done all those blog posts and landing pages, you should also do the YouTube video on that subject, which will also, make the circle complete.
Right. And is the YouTube video going to be in behalf of that landing page, or is it going to be in behalf of the clusters, like individual videos for each cluster? Or would you say?
Yeah. So it should be around the subject, the pillar subject. Let's
okay.
That way, not for each one of those blogs, but actually it should be a part of let's say, cluster content, elements that
right.
are pushing towards the pillar one.
And the pillar, does it have to be a landing page? Or sometimes I know pillars are also like just a long article as well, right?
Yeah. It really depends. So what that should be, you should focus on interlinking between different pages. That's more important than the fact whether it's landing page or an article. For some subjects, it makes sense to be a landing page. For other subjects, such as, let's say, a feature. So if you want to rank, I know,
background removal tool, for example, right?
Mention. Yeah. It makes sense to be the landing page, but for something other, like what is automation testing, of course, it makes more sense to be the article. While, for example, if you're ranking for the bottom of the funnel, let's say Canva alternative, it also makes sense to be the landing page, as you have a larger capacity to convert people on that, and Google mainly gets that type of results. When you look for alternative, you mainly get the landing page, so it's normal to have the landing page. And that's one of the starting points of any conversation when it comes to website mapping. The companies that are not having the alternative based pages, I'm not sure.
Missing out must be.
They're missing.
I think the other company, Blitzit, is right now missing out. We definitely need to ship those pages, because this is the second time I had one guy, a good friend of mine, who's also a SaaS founder, had been telling me, like, look, you got to get some alternative to Blitzit pages and comparison pages, which is critical for sure. And I think we definitely saw the results on Glorify. It's interesting because I think what you said, it makes sense, because it's more about the goals, right? Because if your goal is, like you said, you're creating cluster topics to talk about a feature, could be like carousel creator or maybe a whiteboard tool or something, then you send them to the feature or the explanation of that product. If you're talking about e-commerce and saying, little cluster topics on dropshipping, maybe it can point to an article, a full article based on dropshipping in 2023, perhaps, no?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense to start with the customer, understand the way they would experience such page, and make the decision based on that. But generally, just to add up regarding the competitor page, we are seeing over 8% conversion rate on such pages. So you should structure it in a way that's conversion focused. Basically, you're bringing a really interest-defined customers to the page, so it's very logical that it has the higher conversion rate, as people do know about Canva, they are not satisfied with it, they are looking for alternative, they understand they need the design tool. So a lot of work is already done in the process, and they come and convert. So if your product and landing page is good enough, but
it's a high intent search kind of thing, right? Which makes a lot of sense for sure. All right. Well, look, we've pulled in a lot of your SEO expertise, which is I'm really grateful for, because I'm sure our audience of founders and builders and startup team members would really appreciate this. We're going to move into a conversation that had high demand. My audience within YouTube and Twitter, this conversation has been going up pretty much everywhere, because I created probably the most popular video in terms of Webflow versus Framer that's out there. It probably compiled the most views out of everyone out there, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm proud to hold my hand up there, not to blow my trumpet too much, but the fact is, what I want to focus on is how important this topic is, right? And thereby we've had other people also come after me and create videos based on Webflow versus, it's a hot topic, Webflow versus Framer. Why would you choose those tools? A tool is a tool at the end of the day. I mean, they're both web builders. You know, they both have a CMS. They both have, and content is content at the end of the day. Google is Google. It'll do its thing and crawl the website. So what we want to focus on is, number one, we'll talk about our transition, because we, as everyone knows, I made the transition from Webflow to Framer. We never revealed the results of that. I'm glad to say that we're able to cross recently. We maintained our traffic overall, it seemed. At the beginning, we had a bit of a scare because it seemed like some of our articles were not getting indexed. I shared that with you, Matt. Like, a lot of the articles didn't seem to get indexed. And I had a few conversations with the Framer team to rectify that. And it seemed there was some kind of error on Framer. It seemed that way, and that's why it wasn't getting indexed. Good thing is that a lot of the traffic didn't get lost. And we kept posting more content afterwards during that year. And we managed to see, I think the growth kept overall steady. And we got to about now, I think it's around 60,000 unit hits a month, which I'm quite happy with. And so that's on a good month. I mean, we've had it dip slightly and go high slightly, depending on the month. Of course, we had campaign season, so it was at an all-time high in November for sure. But yeah, I'd like to hear about your thoughts. I showed you some of the stuff that we went through when we moved to Framer, and you might have seen some of the analysis behind it. You were familiar with the work you guys did on Webflow, and we were able to get to on Webflow. I think by the time you had left, of course we were finished with the internal project, and you moved on to bigger things. At that time, when you left, it was about 40K unique visitors. I'm not sure. It was around that much. We can check the data soon, and we can show it for our audience. But curious to know what your thoughts were when we moved to Framer. Was it a successful project according to you? And I also want to pick your brain on, based on your knowledge, from what you've seen between Framer and Webflow, what's the pros and cons from your understanding?
Yeah, based on the data I've seen, I think it's a success, of course. Not sure if the growth would be bigger with Webflow, but generally, I think you've found the platform that suits the best for both you and your team, which I believe is a success, and it gives you the easiest workflow, which is the most important thing when it comes to any platform. So we work a lot with Webflow, both when it comes to development and SEO. And based on all of my experience, I would say it's a more superb when it comes to SEO than Framer. But of course, it depends what your team is made up on, etc. I'd say, it's not a Framer versus Webflow. I'd say those are, two brothers, and Framer is a younger brother, as it's structured in a really similar way. I think, they were copying each other. Most of the settings that you can find in Webflow, you can find in Framer as well. When it comes to the SEO, some advanced stuff, such as, for example, sitemap that you can customize in Webflow, you can't do that in Framer. Yeah, generally, I believe that Webflow is more equipped with some, nuances for when it comes to SEO, something that Framer doesn't yet have. But generally, Webflow is much more mature platform. So from the SEO standpoint, if I needed to make a decision between Webflow and Framer, I'd also take a look at their market share. And currently there is around 800K live websites on Webflow, while there are, I believe, around 34K websites on Framer, which is quite a difference. So I believe that Webflow is more stable when it comes to its technology, to its hosting, etc. But of course, as I said, they do perform pretty similarly.
So, when you poked around our website on Framer, in your opinion, did you notice anything that looks concerning in terms of Framer's infrastructure, for example? Did it load slower because maybe their server setup, or was there any specific SEO metrics that was falling short that you noticed?
Yes, actually, I was running, different audits on GT metrics, on Screaming Frog, on Ahrefs, etc. An interesting one was on GT metrics. So your general performance was pretty low. I think it was around 70%, something like that, the technical performance on GT metrics. It says that the problem is caused by, some elements not lazy loading, and some scripts that are loading and are not in use are, slowing down the technical performance, which is something that we've seen on a couple of other projects when it comes to Framer. So you should be very careful about its loading and the optimization of it. I'm not sure if it's possible, as Webflow and Framer are actually in the backend made differently. So Framer works on React, and it needs to load some embeds before actually, so you can see anything while React starts working. So I believe it's caused by that. So if you're asking me, for example, glorify.com, the website on two different infrastructures, the same website would actually load better on Webflow. So that's my presumption.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm curious to know if those issues were to do with Framer directly, or is it to do with let's say potentially, and I want to play the devil's advocate here, just wondering if is it the scripts that, or is it the way the website is built? Because we're analyzing our website, for example, which is quite graphically heavy. We have a very heavy navigation bar as well. That's, quite rich with graphics and text and things like that, and animation. Do you think it could be those things, or do you reckon it's also definitely a Framer issue, the way it's built?
That suboptimal technical performance is not something I've just heard from you. From a couple of other projects, we've seen the same thing. They are not lazy loading some scripts, and most of technical issues is coming from that point. And generally, I believe that's because of it. I'm actually seeing your audit right here.
You're free to share your screen if you wish. I don't know if it'll help, if it'll cause issues, but
it's completely technical, so I'm not sure if that would be helpful. But generally, what's the good news about Framer is that they're developing really fast. So I think these issues will be fixed along the way. So the issues they have at this moment. So most of the stuff that's coming as a problem in this report actually is something they are talking about actively. So about not using embedded videos, not using other fonts other than Google fonts and such. So we can also go through those tips and tricks, let's say, if needed. But so specifically the navigation part shouldn't be the problem, as it doesn't load before you actually drop it down. What could be, of course, starting the issue is the video that you have. So you have the autoplay, which is a no-no. You also have the video that's loading with the website. It's not lazy loading, which is recommended. So I'm not sure if you're embedding it. I think you are from YouTube. So that's also a good thing if you're doing.
So cool. No, that's interesting that you say that. I'm wondering if Framer would always have a bottleneck because it's made out of React components in the backend. And the reason I'm worried about that concern is because, and I think looking at Webflow, it's proper web semantics. That's the way it's built. It's real CSS, and that's what you're making the website from, right? Which is what the whole web recognizes, is the code that the whole web recognizes. I mean, of course, websites recognize React as well, but it's more raw code, as in front-end code.
Yeah, absolutely. They are started to implement the server-side rendering. I'm not sure about its performance.
Is that Framer or Webflow? Sorry. What's
Framer?
Okay, server-side rendering. Okay.
Yeah. They are doing a very similar thing to the Next.js. So Next.js is also using React. The performance will be better through time, definitely. So they have enough funding, which is really important when it comes to
Well, I wanted to say this, if you don't mind me, I was going to add to that because the funding they raise, the React components, maybe they can bypass those issues. One thing I was saying earlier was that there was a person on Twitter, I think he's the guy who runs Framer University, Nandi. He said that if you're building a Framer website, I don't think you have to worry about this on Webflow, by the way. It's just for Framer. But if you build a Framer website, make sure in your layers you use proper web semantics. When you name your layers, use proper web semantics. And I think also categorize them correctly. So you create the attributes such as like div, div for content, or I think there's other semantics that I can't remember all of them. In fact, I've saved them on Twitter to remember. I never implemented it actually, but that's one of the things that was advised. If you want it to be SEO optimized, use semantics that are common within like web language, for example, or that's not the best practice for web, basically. Have you heard of this before?
Yeah, absolutely. The good thing about Webflow is that it automates a lot of stuff for you when it comes to web semantics, and Framer doesn't. But generally, you should be careful about the semantics for both platforms. So, you should, let's say, each page should have one H1 tag. It shouldn't have, duplicates, etc. So those are the things that you should be careful about on all platforms, and not are exclusive only to Framer. But yeah, so as a summary of the discussion, bigger companies trust Webflow because of its stability, and it is a stable solution with really high uptime. On the other hand, most of companies that you're seeing that are trusting Framer are actually trusting it partially. So I've seen that you've said that Zapier migrated its website on Framer, and it didn't. It only migrated the brand.zapier.com, and in those use cases it's great. But for the big websites that are super sensitive, they are sticking with their custom solutions or Webflow.
What about Dribble?
Yeah, I'm not sure about.
What about Dribble? Because you're right. Actually, you're correct when you said Zapier moved the brand side. It turns out, which I should have clarified in my video. You're fully right there. But Dribble just recently shipped its new site, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, is there a way to find out? Is it? I think it's built on Framer, from what I've heard.
I've heard the same thing. I'm not sure. There is a way to find out. It would take some time to go through it. Yeah, of course, there are some use cases when none of those platforms is optimal. So nor Webflow nor Framer. So, for example, if you're after programmatic SEO, which, let's say, a classical example of it would be Airbnb. So you have a large number of content elements that you want to, semi-automatically rank for, for, some, let's say, London apartment, London staying, just London, that type of listing websites. So neither of these is optimal. We are actually working on one website, and we're using Next.js and one headless infrastructure in the back. So for the CMS, mainly we are using WordPress actually for it, as both Framer and Webflow have the limits when it comes to the CMS elements. So they are made completely the same when it comes to CMS elements.
Is this because of lack of API and things like that? So you can't automate the content, correct? Or
no, actually,
is that the main issue?
So on Framer, you can't automate the content. You're right. So they don't have Airtable integration or Zapier integration, etc. On Webflow, you have that, but they're normal plans, and I'm deliberately using this word normal plans, are limited to 10,000 CMS collection items, and afterwards you'll need to pay their enterprise plan, which is abnormal, absolutely abnormal. So yeah, for that reason, it's not optimal. So for example, in that use case, Webflow is treating CMS items, every CMS item as a separate thing. So let's say you're having a listing website. So one CMS item would be a London slag apartment, and another CMS item would be pretty much the subfolder of it. Let's say London / apartment / something. So that would be another CMS item, the subfolder of London apartments, which really maximizes the number of CMS items if you are calculating them that way. So in a really short period.
Just to clarify, sorry to cut you off, Matt. Just to clarify, like when you look at programmatic SEO, for our audience to understand what this is, with this strategy, technically you're building up a content engine based on the platform you're creating. Is that typically how it's used? I mean, you wouldn't do this for a normal website, but more for, like you said, the use case was Airbnb, where they're automating content based on people creating their listings and things like that. I'm assuming that happens on Amazon for their product categories and catalogs that people are creating. Same for maybe templates like Glorify. If we're going to create an engine network for people to publish templates, then that would be, because we also had limits with Framer to build our own designer marketplace. And we actually kind of combat that, but it's going to be a manual process where the designers come to our website, submit the template they want to list on our website, and then we have to manually list it via a CMS item. But I guess programmatic SEO will solve this, right?
Yeah, you should solve that. So we are talking about a large quantity of data that's in, let's say, Excel, Airtable, something like that. And based on different variables, such as page name tag, such as alt tag, meta descriptions, etc., you're creating a large number of pages based on different variables, and you're using the semi-automatic approach, as they are being generated based on some templates that you are having. So that template has the title, the image, etc. And with programmatic SEO, if you have capacity for something like that, you can output tens of thousands of pages in, let's say, a month. And the old-fashioned way wouldn't. That actually wouldn't be possible that way.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, and that's quite clear that I think both Framer and Webflow has limitations here, but definitely Webflow is the more mature one if you want to try to take and create something within their system. Because I mean, at the end of the day, Webflow has by now, being how many years it's been quite mature. Let's give it that honest star on the shoulder, which is, and it has been around for a while. It's been the go-to tool for several years before Framer did its pivot, and because of that, it has a very, very rich developer kind of resource library, right? And a lot of developers have created a lot of custom solutions with Webflow, I believe, and so like you can switch the CTA component inside the CMS, no?
Yeah. It actually supports a lot of custom stuff, so which is great when it comes to such things. When you need some sorts of automation, it actually gives you the liberty. And I believe, based on what I'm seeing on Framer, that it's mostly static and mostly focused on let's say designers or designer heavy teams. But of course, it's great when you have that type of liberty to actually publish pages so fast from Figma. If that's the factor that's most important for you, I think you should go with Framer. But in other case scenarios, when your team, needs some operational excellency, when it comes to let's say you need to make, X number of blogs, X number of landing pages, etc. I think the Webflow could be a better solution. It gives you that templatized experience when you have a one page, and then anyone can actually copy it and change stuff, or it can be automated with their Airtable, etc.
Okay, so primarily I think integrations, developer rich is the main thing that Webflow stands out, and then when it comes to Framer, if you're a design-led team, which is what I said in my Webflow versus Framer video, it could be a good option because you don't need developers to do the website. It's the same workflow designers know from Figma, taking the same Webflow and then designing the website on Framer. Like you said, flat content, it's basic custom fields. And in fact, very quickly before we conclude, we'll just navigate Webflow very quickly. I'm going to share my screen. And what I noticed inside the Webflow CMS, you have basic stuff like obviously the URL, the collection name. So it looks like you can create multiple collections as well. So you just add from here, and then you have fields, and looks like all the fields are pretty standard. You have text, descriptions, images, things like that. But I do believe that they have some fields that are very technical. There's an FAQ thing, I think, over here. Maybe this is a component that we created for this field. I can't remember, to be honest. But there's, text, image from what I see here.
You can create custom
components within this and I guess tie it to the field. But I'm for some reason I can't add a new field because maybe the site has been kind of paused. But
you're on the
okay, well that makes sense. Well, you can add a new field here, looks like. But looking at the field types, you have image, multi-image, which is something we don't have in Framer. Video link, I think we do have it. Phone number, we don't. Switch, we don't. Date and time, options. So these are quite rich components, I would argue, that we don't have in Framer. In Framer CMS, I'm looking at this, and from fields, I see, the typical fields that you can create. If you click add over here, you have some very basic ones. This is as long as the list goes. Plain text, formatted text, link, image, color, toggle, option, number, date, file. And file, I think, is specifically for like a downloadable file that you can put a link for. So looks like there's a considerable amount more components here, or at least some components that are much more rich from what I see. I don't know if I'm missing anything, Matija, from what you see.
Yeah, from the SEO standpoint, so outside of CMS variables, Webflow offers a bigger level of customizations when it comes to a single page. So the settings of the single page, and also in its dashboard, you can find the SEO department, and there you can also see some settings that you can't find in Framer. When not sure, so it's not a topic, but generally, if anyone who is on Webflow is seeing this video, I believe it could be very valuable to understand the way it functions. So you'll get over, all those issues, and it's not that hard to fix all those issues. But we are seeing one problem with Webflow's SEO that people should be aware of. So Webflow is automatically generating sitemap, and most of issues in the long term actually start from there. So you shouldn't automatically generate the sitemap. You should do it manually. And when you do it manually, the problems won't exist anymore.
Okay.
This especially often happens when you have localizations with href lengths in the sitemap. So you should do it manually. And most of the issues that you are seeing in, let's say, hrefs reports won't exist no more. So not sure about the Framer. I think potentially it could be a similar situation as in SEO perspective, they are structured really similarly. So sitemap should be something to worry about.
Yeah, I think with Framer, as far as site, again, I'm going to share my screen one more time. But as far as the sitemap is concerned, there's a specific setting over here. If I go to on the general side.
It's in the Google Search Console. It's the only way to set up the sitemap for
You're right.
Framer.
I mean, there's one thing you could do, which is there's a specific URL they give you. They don't give it here, but Framer gives you a URL of your website with some kind of domain. If you go to that domain, then you will be able to download the sitemap, and then you can upload it on Google Search Console. Have you seen? I don't know if you heard of that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I haven't. But generally, you can see your site by typing glorify.com. slash
Okay,
sitemap.
you know what? Maybe it's not a
XML.
maybe it's not a Framer thing. I think it's maybe a Google thing. So you type sitemap or something, right? Because this is the advice the Framer. Excuse my
Yeah,
knowledge on SEO; it's terrible, by the way. But this is the advice the Framer team gave me to crawl our website. Was that, hey, go to this URL, download the sitemap, and upload it on Google Search Console, which is what I did. I assumed it was coming from Framer, but I think it's not.
Yeah, so it's not actually. It's coming from Google Search Console when you can set it up and edit it. And also, so when you migrate it to Framer, you had some indexing trouble. Most probably, so there could be a couple of case scenarios, but most probably it's due to the sitemap, actually, or maybe that there are some no index tags that weren't erased, etc. So, but most probably it's due to the sitemap. So, yeah, those are some things that people should be really careful about when setting up their Framer or Webflow websites. So, some couple of technical things to keep an eye on. On our website, omnius.so, we actually have the Webflow SEO guide. So, yeah, actually, I would recommend using it as some sort of a checklist if you are, creating a new Webflow website.
Yeah, and we'll get to some of your links later, as in we're going to drop them in the description for our audience to check out for sure. Any guides, any resources you can give, Matt, that is going to be super useful to our audience. I just want to talk about one last thing. I know I keep saying one last thing, but again, going back to the comparison between Webflow and Framer, there's analytics in Framer, as you can see here. Some of the things that you can see is like the top sources and your main website sources. It goes up to a certain limit, and also within your pages, as in the top pages. Of course, it's no Google Analytics or Mixpanel, but it gives you some interesting stats to start off with. I personally struggle with Google Analytics. I do like Mixpanel. It's quite user-friendly, for example. And I mean, this is quite useful for me to just get some quick ideas about how our performance is looking like. But based on like what you see here in terms of what Framer is offering, I mean, it only goes up to 30 days between a week. It is very limited. I won't argue with that. But what do you notice between this and Webflow's analytics? I don't think I've even poked around Webflow's analytics feature. I've mainly used their web builder to build our site, and then you were actually the one managing the SEO at the time. So I'm curious to know, like, is there like any analytics that we...
So Webflow doesn't have its own analytics. Regarding Framer's analytics, or they're super simple. I wouldn't find it too credible in the daily analysis of the business. I'd always stick with Google Analytics or any other alternative, let's say plausible analytics, or Google Search Console. I think Google Search Console and Google Search Insights, when it comes to SEO, gives a much better predictions, and also the general bird view of your business. What I really like to see in the Google Analytics is the traffic acquisition part and the sources. So to see where is actually all that traffic coming from what sources. I think in the SEO perspective, that could be valuable, as potentially you're generating backlinks from those websites. You should think about why is that happening and how I can multiply that X times. So for example, we have seen that in the traffic acquisition department, that our website omnius.so won a couple of awards, and I didn't know about it. So I just seen that we are getting tons of traffic from some source, and I wasn't aware of what that is. And generally, when it comes to the GA4, I'd say use traffic acquisition to understand the sources. And for the SEO, Google Search Console is the holy grail if you don't have Ahrefs and such. So for the health score, if you worry about that metric, SEO health score, we are tracking that in Ahrefs, and it's a really great tool. So yeah, when it comes to the decision process, I wouldn't find, Framer analytics that important, as they are really shallow. So not sure if
Yeah.
those metrics do show a lot of stuff.
Right. Interesting. Just curious, like based on like what are you basing that on? As in, why do you think it could be quite shallow? Would you say it's inaccurate, or maybe not giving a full picture?
No, I won't say. Yeah, I won't say it's inaccurate. So they have, the direct source. Their analytics. They're not using, some segment or something like that to process data. So I think that they are very precise. I'm just talking about they have, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, 3 metrics. So I think it's not big enough to make some assumptions, to make decisions based on, etc. When it comes to SEO, I would always rely on the Google Search Console. If I'm not mistaken, the Framer doesn't support, some keyword metrics, some keyword tracking, etc.
No, it won't. Yeah, no, you're right. So it won't give you keywords. It's very basically the analytics you're getting is too basic. That's what it is. Versus like getting rich, deeper insights to make decisions. Perfect, Matt. Look, we really enjoyed your session here today. Before we do leave, give me a quick fire comparison. You mentioned that you'd pick Webflow for specific. You do use Webflow in your agencies for specific use cases, especially with your clients and things like that. But if someone came to you and asked you, "Hey, tell me in 30 seconds the difference between Webflow and Framer and which one you would choose for specific projects," how would you explain that to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So the websites do function pretty similarly. So as said, I'd say those are the Framer is the younger brother of Webflow. I'd go with Webflow because of in any case scenario, if I'm not, let's say, a designer or design agency, or I'm building my personal website or the website for my design studio, something like that, which doesn't have to have the maximum technical capacity and to rely that much on SEO. Why I would choose it? Well, because it's bigger. It has 800K online websites, contrary to 34.7K on Framer. It has much bigger ARR, which is also an interesting metric when you're thinking about the stability of a company. I think they are around 100 million. Also, from the technical aspects of it, Webflow gives the greater capacities for the SEO. So I'd choose it. But, if we are talking about designers, design studios, and somebody who is not creating a website with large number of pages, I'd go with Framer, as it's simpler, it's very straightforward, so you can make a website in a day or something like that if you're a designer. So that's pretty much it, what I would do if I needed to choose between the two.
Makes total sense. I appreciate that, Matt. Matt, tell us, for our audience that would like to know more about you. Of course, we give them, they've learned quite a lot from you already in the session, but I'm sure they'd like to know about where they can find you, your team, where are you most active, and how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone can reach us on our website or LinkedIn. I think we are, sleeping on LinkedIn now, but yeah, generally the best source of knowledge regarding our agency or our case studies or guides we make, etc., is our website omnius.so. So we like to help companies and especially startups. So if you need any sorts of help, please feel free to reach out. We do a lot of our stuff for free, actually, as some sorts of consulting mentorships. We mentor startups in different incubators here in Europe. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just note aside, we actually onboard only 8 clients per year and work on a really integrated level. So we can't actually start working with anyone, but we are really open to help any way possible.
It's great to hear, man. And of course, I know that from you, knowing you, you've always a man of value, and I'm sure all of the people connected with you appreciate that and know that about you. So Thanks a lot, man. We had a really amazing session, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, amigo.
All right, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this discussion I had with Matija, and perhaps you've gained some insights on trying to decide whether or not to either move from Webflow to Framer or vice versa. And if you have, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. In the meantime, check out these recommended videos and smash that subscribe button. Till next time, and don't forget to keep building.